Hello and welcome to our TBGS podcast, That Board Game Show. I'm Sonja Wood. This is episode 18. And again, I have my son with me today.
Hello.
There he is. That's James. Last time we did a podcast together, it was so fun, and we spoke about all kinds of things. You'll have to go listen to it. Episode 17 was about Gen Con and Jaws of the Lion and
all the games we'd been playing recently at the time.
And so no surprise, today's podcast, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing, because that's what it is all about, isn't it? That board game show. And Jamie has continued making videos in between our doing podcasts. He's busy with the Rolling Realms series, whereby it is, we'll tell them what it is, Jamie, the Rolling Realms, the miniature golf or something.
I spoke about it in the previous podcast, but yeah, I'm continuing to play through the Rolling Realms solitaire mini golf variant and doing an episode a week until that's done. So I'm still chugging away at filming and editing and uploading those.
That is 18 videos for 18.
So it's 18 weeks of content on the TBGS YouTube channel.
And they're all quite short, about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, thereabouts. They're sort of averaging out because I think they'd probably play quicker if you were just playing, but because I'm just playing through, but I'm also stopping and explaining and
showing and talking about the rules.
Thinking out loud and all that stuff. So that does slow it down a little bit. But yeah, the videos are coming out to around about 20-ish minutes each. I would imagine typical playtime for those would probably be
10, 15.
More 10, 15 minutes.
I find them helpful because I'm doing the proof watch of the video once he's made it. And I find it helpful to watch them because I must say that when we went to play Rolling Realms, it was twisting my brain around a bit because you've got these three different three sort of different areas. And it's very clever because Jamie Stigmar is the designer and developer and everything.
And owner of Stonemaier Games, and all the realms in the base box of Rolling Realms are like micro game versions of all the games they've published on Stonemaier. So there's Viticulture, there's Wingspan, there's Euphoria, there's Pendulum, etc., etc., etc.
And they're all represented on individual cards.
On a single card. And the way that card operates and scores and everything is similar to sort of how the full game would work.
A kind of representation of that game.
Basically a roll and write version of that game.
Yeah, but there's three of them with each game. So when you go to play the next hole, you would have a variety of three different games, being let's choose some, Wingspan,
Euphoria, and Scythe.
Now, those three, which Jamie has designed, he's now got each one of those represented on a little card. So I have to say that when I went to play it, if I'm not that familiar with all of those games, I found it a bit difficult to me.
You don't really need to be familiar with the base game to know how the Rolling Realms realm card works.
No.
It's more of a nod to, if you do know the game, you'll see the similarities.
Okay.
It doesn't really hinge on you understanding how that game plays. I mean, like most of them we haven't played. We've only got a handful of their games.
We'd like them all. But anyway, the point is what I was making is the fact that your videos, when I watch them to proof them before you upload them, I find watching them, it all makes sense to me. Like, oh, so that's how that works. So I'm finding them very useful to watch. So that's why you make them, to help people and for them to be useful to others.
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
And with Rolling Realms, it's also a little bit more because when you play the multiplayer game, how the multiplayer game works is you basically play it over 3 rounds. And each round, you're playing 3 different realms. So in a typical 2, 3, 4 player game, you would be playing 9 realms. And so that's 9 different rule sets. That's 9 different scoring things that you have to understand and learn. Whereas with the solitaire mini golf, it's more of a condensed version. Each hole is typically only 3 realms. There's a couple exceptions to that. But as a rule, it's each hole is 3 realms, and then you go on to the next hole, and that's a different combination of 3 realms, and so it goes.
And if you want to find out more about what we're talking about, you've made all the videos. Well, not all of them. We're on hole 13 or 14 at the moment.
I've
so there's more to
filmed
come.
up to 13, and I can't keep track of what's up on the channel.
In the
when this
YouTube land.
episode goes up on the podcast versus what's available on the channel versus I don't even know.
What's on the cutting room floor and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's chat about the other games we've been playing. The one that we played recently was Steam. Steam by?
Martin Wallace.
There you go.
Technically called Steam, Rails to Riches.
That it's full title.
Yeah, because just Steam was probably taken already.
Well, I found that when I was playing that game, my experience of that game, I found myself getting very absorbed. I get very lost in that game. And that's what it does. That's my experience of it. I absolutely love it because of the fact that I get lost in it. I like games that I get lost in. What was your experience of Steam? Rails to Riches, did you say?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's its full title. It's basically a iteration on, I think it's meant to be like a streamlined, lighter version of Railways of the World or Age of Steam.
Age of Steam, I think they said.
I think it was Age of Steam, yeah.
Yeah.
So Age of Steam originally designed by Martin Wallace, and then Railways of the World also is by him, which is, they're all in the same sort of style. So it's basically him iterating on this basic course idea, which is you have a map and you have little railway tiles and you're connecting cities to cities with your railway tiles.
And you're moving goods around.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
that's why I like it. Pick up and deliver.
Yeah, it's kind of a pick up and deliver game. It's also kind of a stock market game. It's also kind of a resource management game. So there's a lot of elements going on. It's a very clever design. There's dozens, probably hundreds of maps available to download and print and buy and all sorts of things. I find with the version we've got, which is just the base box, it doesn't work as well with just 2 players because it's the map is a little bit too open. It's technically a 3 to 5 player game or 3 to 6. So playing it with 2, it works well enough, but it does leave the map a little bit wide open. You know, there's not really,
actually,
you don't interact with each other much.
I like those kinds of games. Jamie's more inclined, speaking for you here, to like the games where you are getting a little bit in each other's way. It makes a little bit more of a strategic planning.
Well, particularly if that's part of the core design of the game, which is the
right.
case with this. You know, it's meant to be that you're not so much getting in each other's way, but you're interacting with the other players. You're building sort of over and under each other's railroads, and you know, somebody will build a connection from one city to another, and then you can piggyback off that connection. So basically, when you deliver a cube from one city to another, you get money or points for each connection between those 2 points. So if you've gone through, say, 4 cities using 4 different connections, you're going to get 4 points.
Right.
And if you're playing with more players at the table, it could be that one of those points is somebody else's rail link that they've built out. And so you can sort of piggyback off that. You're giving them 1 point, but you're getting 3. And that doesn't really happen with 2.
No, because
with 2, we kind of just build. You build on that side of the map, I build on this side of the map.
Get on with it.
Stay out of each other's way.
Yeah, that's what we do with Steam. And it works and we enjoy it. But as you say, it's a completely different experience if you're playing it with 3 or 4, and this game probably lends itself more to a better game experience with more players. But in case you haven't gathered by now, our game group consists of 2 people. That's myself and James. And that is our consistent game group. We have another game group where we have some friends that come, and it's, generally 4 or 5 in that game group.
Sometimes 6.
In fact, we've got a game group this weekend. We call it our TBGS game weekends, and we play games all weekend. And that game group, we're finding that because if there's more than 5 people, more than 4 people, this game is good for 4 and that game is good for 2. So we end up splitting up a bit. But
most games max out at about 4. I find, there's games that go to 5, there's games that go to 6, but the majority of games
2 to
are
4.
2 to 4. That's kind of the standard sweet spot. And I think we found as well is more often than not, I think the sweet spot is 3 players.
Yeah,
So
we do
we
like
enjoy
3.
playing, obviously, 2 player together. But I think a lot of games really sing at 3?
Well, I can tell you a game that I think sings at 2, and that's Seventh Continent. Because we play Seventh Continent. It's right up there in our top 10 of most favorite games, probably top 3. But we've been playing Seventh Continent again. We have played...
Well, we never really stop playing
No,
Seventh
we
Continent.
don't stop. We don't stop. But we've been playing the What Goes Up Must Come Down
Yeah.
expansion. And, it's just fun. You're going up in a hot air balloon and floating above the clouds and landing again and going up and floating above the clouds and land. And we're trying to find... Oh, no, I mustn't talk about it.
Figure out the mystery.
We mustn't talk about it because it's the whole spoiler thing. What we
No
can
details.
talk about is our experience of it. We really enjoyed. We play it for a half an hour or an hour or somewhere like that, and then we pack it up because it's got this fantastic saving mechanism, which is one of the real amazing things about this game, because you can put it down, play it for an hour, put it back again. Next time you come to play, you carry on where you left off. It's well designed in that regard. And
Very well designed.
in actual fact, we've said it a few times now, but our very first podcast was about the Seventh Continent, because it's quite a story how we got that game land on our table. And now I've got another story that I want to tell them on this podcast. And that is, I had a big secret and surprise lined up for Jamie for his next birthday. Because if there's one thing I know that's going to make him grin like a Cheshire cat for about a week or more, and that is get a new game. It's absolutely for certain that it's going to make him very happy. I haven't yet discovered otherwise. So you know what I did? I did some research to try and look for a particular game that was extremely hard for us to get here in South Africa. And then Simon, it's his fault again, Simon, who we've told you about, he's done a couple of videos for us on the That Board Game Show YouTube channel, and we've got some more in the wings. But anyway, Simon, who is the culprit for introducing us to this next level of playing board games, he told us about that he had seen this game. Okay, let me tell you what the game, to not keep you in suspense any longer. On Mars. Is that it, Jamie? Is it straightforward On Mars?
It's just On Mars. Designed by Vital Lacerda, published by Eagle Griffin Games.
All of that just comes straight out of his head. Anyway, Simon told me that he had seen one copy of On Mars in a particular board game shop. So what did I do? I bought it. I don't have it yet. It was supposed to be a surprise, but the story goes that I was doing all this in the background, looking for On Mars and seeing if I could get it, because Jamie had spotted it and it was one of his hankering after games, There's a lot of those, but, some actually he hankers over
Some
more.
rise to the top of the hankering after list.
Yes. Anyway, what I did is I found it and I was trying to organize to get it. And then Jamie comes marching into the kitchen one day and he says, I think I've decided I'm going to buy myself On Mars. I was going, no, don't do that. Oh, my goodness. I'm already, on track with the whole thing. So it's not a secret anymore. It's not even going to be a surprise because we don't have it yet. We bought it and we're waiting for it. I think a lot of board game
The other thing
hobbyists can identify with that. Bought it and waiting.
Oh, yeah. Anyone who's ever backed any Kickstarter can
Identify.
except at least we have some idea of when it's going to arrive.
Yes, a couple of months from now. Yeah.
But also what really triggered me deciding that I was going to just go ahead and get it thing is I found that the expansion, which is called Alien Invasion, was on sale on one of the board game shops.
Not just on
Locally.
sale, online. In an online
on
store.
sale online, yeah.
50%.
Not quite.
Oh, not quite. Okay,
Substantially reduced.
substantially reduced expansion. Yeah.
And that expansion takes On Mars, which is a heavy, complicated, crunchy Euro points-driven game.
Safe to call it heavy because it's categorized as a heavy game.
4.67 for what it's worth on Board Game Geek heaviness
Sure.
rating. And the expansion makes it a co-op. So this Alien Invasion expansion adds a 4-chapter cooperative and semi-cooperative. One of the chapters is like a one versus many. So one person plays the aliens and all the other people play colonists on Mars fighting back the aliens. And then the other chapters, I think, are just more straight up cooperative. The one I was watching a playthrough for was like Contagion or something, where the colony has been infected by some alien parasites and you're having to send your people to hospital and build the hospital and all kinds of things. So seeing that A, the core game was available, which is very hard to find, and B, the expansion to make it a co-op experience, which is something we would get a lot more pleasure from than just a normal point salad.
Just on Mars as it is, yeah. We want the expansion to make it cooperative for sure, because we get a lot of pleasure from cooperative games. Yeah. So that's the On Mars story, but I'm sure they're going to be hearing more about it. We'll be talking more about it once we have it and once we've played it, and maybe Jimmy does a video for it. That's still to be determined.
Probably, but we shall see how complicated it is. But it's got a very, very good solo mode. So.
Oh, wow.
I will hopefully be able to showcase that.
Just in case you don't know, you've got a whole solo series on that board game show, haven't you?
Well, basically every video I've done is for the solo mode of a game.
And the other videos?
Or I otherwise take a game and make it solo, because that's how I show how to play. So I show you the solo play, which gives a good sense of how the game plays as a whole, and then you can take that and use it in your typical game group, whether solo or not.
So as you say, all the videos you've made are showing the solo.
Yeah, that's my main focus.
Right, but then there's other videos that are different presenters that are doing it differently, doing a review on the game or an overview of the game, or
well, those videos are on the channel. We're not really posting a lot of that content currently. So because we've done a couple of videos with Simon, hoping to do some more soon. But he also focuses on the solo play. So it's kind of leaning more and more that direction. And basically because, I don't live in a area where I'm surrounded by a weekly game group and people to play games with and all the time and everything. So it just lends itself to the fact that I play games solo a lot. So therefore it's easier for me to do videos on the solo side of a game and showcase that and explain the game in that way.
So for the people who are listening and they don't know where you live, why don't you tell them where you live?
On top of a hill in South Africa. On a nature reserve.
On a nature reserve.
Far away from other gamers.
And we've got the privilege of having our recording studio that is in a valley, and it's in a nature valley, sort of like a nature reserve. But because it's in a valley, it's sort of tucked down at the bottom, so it's kind of perfect. You would think it's kind of perfect for recording and filming and all the rest of it. But
until the tractor drives past.
Until the chainsaw comes out and they're felling the forest.
Or the firebomber plane flies overhead because
it's fire season. Yeah, so we have unusual sound effects to attend to to consider when you're filming that are not the suburban sound effects. Yeah. Okay, and then the other game we can chat about today that we've played recently is Cleopatra. But it's got a full title. What's it called?
Cleopatra and the Society of Architects.
Well, I don't think...
Designed mainly by Bruno Catala and co-designed with some other people whose names escape me. He's the main designer on it.
And when you take all these beautiful pieces out the box, you can hear them crying to be painted. Well, I can. So far, these our pieces have just had a very nice wash, which has made the cream plastic that they made with look like stone. So they're looking good, but we want to still do the next level of painting on them because we do like painting where we can, and some of the miniatures and pieces that we get, we like to paint them. It's one of the aspects of the hobby we enjoy. In Cleopatra, the game itself, it's quite a light medium game, but it's beautiful to look at.
Pretty medium, yeah. It was originally published by Days of Wonder many years ago. And then Mojito Studios picked it up and did a over-the-top, lavish second edition reprint.
Oh, no, and I've got a story about Cleopatra that I've suddenly remembered. we were in Cape Town and we went into a toy shop to look for some Lego for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time ago now. And I didn't find the piece of Lego, the Lego kit I was looking for, but I walked past this game called Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. And I wanted to buy it. I thought, oh, now that looks very intriguing. We weren't absolutely sunken into the board game enthusiast hobby at that stage because that came a bit later.
We hadn't fully descended down the rabbit hole just yet.
No. But because we've always played board games, right? My whole childhood, Jamie's whole childhood, we had these game nights and we played the games that are familiar to everybody, the good old standards, Risk, Monopoly. Monopoly and Herd Your Horses was a favorite. But anyway, those were the kinds of games we played. And so I was always on the lookout because every year at Christmas, we bought ourselves the next game to add to the family. So it was a game and a puzzle. That was like our standard thing. So when I saw this game in a toy shop, it really piqued my interest and I picked it up and it was incredibly expensive. Mm-hmm. So I promptly put it back down again.
And it was only for 3 to 5 players.
And it was for 3 to 5 players.
So we were like, oh, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, because it's Jamie and I, as you gathered, are the gamers in the family. The rest join in occasionally, but we are the real enthusiasts when it comes to playing board games. So anyway, I left it. And you know what happened? It didn't go out of my mind, that game. It stayed with me. And I decided a couple of years later, when we had jumped down the rabbit hole, that we just must find this game. And then we couldn't. It was out of print, wasn't it? For a long time, for years.
Yep.
And then, surprise!
And it was only 3 to 5 players. So we watched quite a few videos and things on it, and there was like no player scaling whatsoever. So it literally didn't work with less than 3 players.
And the one we've got?
Is now for 2 to 5 players. So when they did the reprint second edition of it, they tweaked the rules to make it work with 2 players as well.
So there was no hesitation. When it came back into print, I grabbed one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that story, the reason why I wanted to tell that story is generally if you see a game that really captivates you, if you don't get it, you're going to have regret, I think. I mean, it's all depending on budget and everything else, but this applies to me because Jamie would actually just buy every game that ever was made. I think we would need to build onto the house and have a few rooms that could contain all the games because he's got a very broad preference. No, I've got specific preferences and yours is much broader. Yeah. So.
But there's also validity. I mean, Cleopatra is a perfect example of this, which is, if memory serves, something called Vassal's Law, because Tom Vassal of the Dice Tower has a statement that if a game is good enough, it will get reprinted.
Oh, right. Well, so we waited long enough for Cleopatra.
If there's a game out there that's out of print and you've missed out on it and you're feeling terrible because, oh no, I wanted that game so badly. 1, there's probably a million other games out there that can potentially scratch the same itch. And
more than
2,
probably.
If it's out of print, it's generally not advisable to go hunting down a used copy or something, because chances are if it's a good game, it will get picked up again at some point, either as a reprint or re-implemented by something else where they take the core idea and redo it in a totally different game.
I don't think you've done a video for Cleopatra, have you?
Nope. No solo mode.
Oh, you must do a video for it. You know why? Because it's so beautiful to look at. Let's finish painting it and then you can make a video for it just because we painted it and made it look nice. Yeah, well, anyway, that is it. Those are my stories for today. My Cleopatra and Seventh Continent, Steam, and our story of On Mars, which we don't have yet, but we will one day, and then we can talk about our experience of playing it. Okay, well, so that's it for today on TBGS Podcast. I am off to make some tea. And I want to say thank you for your ears. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you again.
And with that, I'll say thank you ever so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show.